Alrighty, I'm all hopped up on caffeine and it's 2 a.m., so let's do this thing. Alright, so this is gonna be a deck tech on one of my favorite EDH decks, because I'm a nerd and I want to nerd out about stuff. Now, fun fact, my real life name is Seton. That's my last name, and that's what this guy's name is. I've heard of other people calling him Seton, Krosan Protector, and they are allowed to be wrong, but that's not how you pronounce it. In any case, this has always been somewhat important to me because Seton is, one, my last name, two, he's also a centaur, and even though I don't really believe in those, star signs and everything, I am a Sagittarius, and that's important because centaurs and archers and all that business. So, I used to collect him a long time ago, and ever since I collected him and all the other cards that had his name on it, I figured I needed to make a deck with Seton at the helm, and there's no better way to do that than in Commander as a commander. I did get a chance to collect almost every single card that mentions him. Most of them are hot garbage, but I still love them anyway. With Venomous Minds destroying an enchanted permanent, and that's it. Ground Seal is actually pretty good. Could be pretty good in this deck if I were to use it against a graveyard heavy meta, because cards in graveyards can't be the targets of spells and abilities, but it actually has some non-synergistic properties with my deck as it is, so I don't run it. Also Insist, which I think is just really just fun art, because Seton has this thing with bears with Insist, Primal Fury, or Primal Frenzy, Bearscape, and then also just centaurs in general. So there's a whole bunch of them. I am running a couple of ones that do mention him in their flavor text and stuff inside of the deck, but let me show you the deck as it is. Why not? So the goal of this deck is Druid Tribal, because the way of Seton and how he works. His ability, tap and untap Druid you control to add green to your mana pool, is actually a really fun way to play, because the interaction of how the card works, it doesn't care about creatures having summoning sickness. So the moment you play Seton, he can use his ability to tap himself and then add green mana to your mana pool, which is the whole point of the entire deck, is to play out a bunch of druids and then go to town with your winning. Mostly you use your druid win conditions, your druid bombs. And yes, there are druid bombs, actually. The first one, the most powerful one out of all of them, is Gilt Leaf Archdruid. It really shows off exactly what you want to do with the deck. It's a 5-mana 3/3 elf. It's druid. Both of those are important, both elves and druids. And whenever you play a druid spell, you may draw a card, and you tap 7 untapped druids you control to gain control of all lands target player controls, which is not how you make friends, but that's definitely how you win games. So the whole point of the deck is to play a whole bunch of druids, use Seton's ability to tap them to be able to play more druids. And then you can either gain control of everyone's lands, or you can use Kamal, Fist of Krosa, to give all of your creatures more power and toughness, and then trample. You can even turn other people's lands into creatures, or your own lands into creatures, and just go wide. Or you can even go extremely tall with Chameleon Colossus, an honorary druid because it's a changeling, and it has protection from black, and it can double its power. Pay 4 mana, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is its power. So you get to make this super huge and tall. And this is a ramp deck, if you hadn't caught on to the fact that there's so much mana already. The idea is to ramp out massive amounts, and just either go tall, go wide, or combo out and stop other people from having fun. The way that the engine really works is the key point to it. It's Druid Ball. You end up playing all of these 1 mana druids, and it's important that you play them the 1 mana ones, specifically because of how Seton works. If you have Guiltleaf Archdruid in play, whenever you play a spell, you get to draw a card. So if I say, play Lawnmower Elves, which can tap to add mana to my mana pool, I can play it. It'll make me draw a card, so I get to see the top card of my library, and then I can immediately tap him using Seton's tap ability to add mana. Even though he has Summoning Sickness, Seton doesn't care. He puts him to work right away. And then I can draw the next card in my deck. Maybe it's an Elvish Mystic, and I can play Elvish Mystic and then tap that. And after I draw a card, maybe I got Fyndhorn Elves in my place, and I can tap that one again. In fact, these ones right here, these, I believe 6, yeah, these 6 druids out of all of them are the most important. If you have these in the opening hand, the whole engine takes off, because each one of these can add a little bit of mana on first turn, which means if you play a Lawnmower Elf, Elvish Mystic, Arbor Elf, any, or even Fyndhorn Elf, if you play either of those 4 first turn, then you can have Seton on the second turn, and it just spirals out of control from there. It's so important to run a 1 mana druid in the deck that I'm running every single 1 mana druid that has been printed that is in the colors, which is only green. So I'm not running Noble Hierarch because it has its color identity is in Bant, because it has the ability to tap for white and blue. So I'm not going to add that one in. All of these will end up doing something good. There's a few of them that just literally do nothing, though. And that's why they are not as good as, say, Fyndhorn Elves, but they're still good enough to run. So, for instance, you've got these that can add mana or let you play additional lands from your hands, or have the ability to add for colorless mana like Boreal Druid, or gaining Vigilance and tapping for mana if you've done some condition to make it bigger, or returning basic lands from your hand, or making all of your elves tap for more mana, or tapping a bunch of elves to add mana to your hand, or tapping 2 elves to add mana, or even destroying enchantments, or sacrificing a forest to regenerate a creature, or once again bringing some basic lands into play, or even Treefolk Harbinger, which lets you tutor for a treefolk or a forest. So either you're tutoring for a forest, or you're tutoring for our honorary treefolks, which are our changelings, which count as elves and druids and treefolks. All of those creature types are super relevant. But yeah, like I said, it's important to have the 1 mana druids, which is why I'm willing to run a 1 mana 1/1 with no other abilities other than it's a druid. So I can play it, draw cards off of drawing abilities, and then tap it immediately for mana. Diligent Farmhand is the exact same thing. It has all of this text, and none of it is relevant, because it just doesn't do any of things that you want. I could sacrifice it and search my library for a basic land card, put it into play tapped, but I'm rarely ever going to use that ability. But there's also Woodland Druid, a 1 mana 1/2 with no abilities, but a really nice flavored text. I like it. What is a tree, buddy? You go. Even Promise Kanushi, it has an ability that doesn't matter, because I don't think I'm running a spirit card that matters. Converted mana cost 7 or less. Oh hey, Chameleon Clauses counts because it's an honorary spirit. Hooray! Synergy. Alright. There is one other 1 mana creature that's an honorary druid. It's not actually a druid, but it makes Lawnmower Elf tokens, because they're elves and druids, and you get to discard cards, which allows you to like discard your forests, use the other cheap 1 mana druids to bring them back with your return basic land card from your graveyard to your hand. One of the reasons why I am not running the ground swell, is that what it's called? Why can't I remember? Ground seal. I'm not running ground seal because that would go against that little tiny combo that might be good. I like to have the long game accounted for in my EDH decks, because at heart I'm a control player, which is why gaining control of everyone's lands sounds so nice to me, even though most people are going to hate me for it. But even then, if you don't just combo out and get 7, 8, 9 druids on the battlefield and start gaining control of everyone's lands, it's still important to create a bunch of mana to be able to pump everything with Chameleon Colossus and Kamal. So there's a bunch of druids that just tap for copious amounts of mana. Elvish Archdruid adds for each elf you control, so it's super important to play a bunch of elves. Priest of Titania, same thing. Wirewood Chandler, same thing. Marwyn and Viridian Joiner will add mana equal to their power. So having ways to, say, boost their power, like Kamal and other things, will let you tap for even more mana. Karametra's Acolyte, add mana equal to your devotion to green. Even Devoted Druid, you can tap it and then untap it by putting a -1/-1 counter on it to add for more mana. All of those things just let you get copious amounts of mana and then just go to town running over everything. But a lot of the engine requires you to have Guiltleaf Archdruid in play, because it is, whenever you play a druid spell, you get to draw a card. So I'm running every single instance of that ability I can. The first one is Beast Whisperer, recently reprinted in the Ikoria Commander set. So I just got that one today, put it right into the deck, and now my life is happy. Gotta have those card draw druids and those card advantage druids like Dream Hunter. It will let me draw a card at the end of the turn if I've got a creature that's big enough, but hey, any amount of card advantage is needed in this deck because it's so important. Zoologist even, because I get to reveal the top card of the library, put it into the play if it's a creature. If not, get it out of there, put it into the graveyard. Voice of Many, also a druid, lets me draw cards when it comes into play. And then here's a weird one. I don't know how to pronounce that. Ichneumon Druid. Like I said, I like stacks pieces and control pieces, and this will actually combo against the Dramatic Scepter combo, because every single time someone casts a spell, if it's an instant, and it's not the first time they've cast an instant that turn, they take 4 damage, which is like the weirdest ability, but it really hates on some really good competitive EDH combos, so gotta put it in there just for funsies. And then Elvish Branchbender is another elf combo of just making big tree folk out of my forests, equal to the amount of elves I have, allowing me to go tall. Outside of that, protection is always super nice and having some interaction. Slippery Bogbender just got printed, lets you put hexproof counters onto stuff, so putting it on either Seton or one of the 3 finishers you've got, super important. Plus, if you've already got like a bunch of +1/+1 counters everywhere, then you can just pump the crap out of one of the finishers, like Chameleon Colossus or something, and giving you more interaction than just trying to ramp, because there's so much ramping. You gotta have something to do with that ramp. Being able to destroy people's artifacts or enchantments by returning opponents' cards to their hands, I'm okay with that. And then the last but not least, the final druid legend that I got, Kesa, one of the oldest ones. All green creatures you control get +1/+1, so it's like a druid lord. Is it great? No. Do I love her? Yes. So I'm keeping her. Fight me. It's actually so important to get these 3 druids out here because they're the finishers that you want to tutor for them. If you have more tutors, get them. I don't. I used to have a worldly tutor and I lost it, but I do have Court of Calling, letting me at instant speed tutor out any druid or other creatures, because I have some other good ones in the deck. Puts it right into play, and that can be super useful. So tutor out those druids. But if you don't have your finishers and you're still trying to win, you have your last chance plan of just trying to go wide with druids and run people over. So getting cards like Obelisk of Erd to make all your druids bigger, Tribal Unity to make all your druids bigger, and then Overwhelming Stampede, make everything bigger and give them trample. That's a really good finisher too. Now, I want to say that Leyline Abundance doesn't work exactly how you want it to work in this deck. Unfortunately, one of the abilities doesn't combo well with Seton. Let me explain. So it has the text, when it's in your hand at the beginning of the game, you can put it into play for free and start with it in play. It also lets you add mana. Whenever you tap a creature to add mana, you get to add an additional green. And then it has a mana sink of 6 and 2 green to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, allowing you to really pump up your whole team. Now, the Oracle text for this says that you have to be tapping the creature using its tap symbol abilities, similar to Devoted Druid or Lawnmower Elves. But using Seton's ability to tap an untapped creature you have does not register for this particular ability, which makes it a little bit of a nombo. But even though it doesn't work with everything, it's still a solid mana sink to just pump every single creature you control, because that can be really important, and I will still run it anyway. But after you have all of this mana and you pumped everything up, there's also, like, you want to be able to have good combos. Here's one combo I like: Guiltleaf Archdruid. With this one, you can gain control of all lands of one target player, but you're playing in a multiplayer match, so you need to be able to target all 3 people at the same time. And that can be really hard, because that would require you to have, 21 untapped druids when you play out Guiltleaf Archdruid. If not, Archdruid is just going to get removed at the end of somebody's turn, no problem. So instead, you got 2 options to be able to take out everybody by untapping your permanents during other people's untap steps. Quest of Renewal has quest counters. When you have 4 or more on it, you get to untap all your creatures. And then Seedborn Muse is a super powerhouse, and it just untaps all of your permanents during each player's untap steps. Having one of these out, 6 druids and Guiltleaf Archdruid, you're just going to take everybody's lands, and they're not going to be able to play Magic, which is my favorite type of Magic. So sue me, I like to be a jerk like that. But even if you don't have Guiltleaf Archdruid, being able to cast your creature spells at flash is super nice. So Vivian comes into play. I don't have very many options like Vivian's ability to cast creature spells. I don't have an Orrery or anything because that's super expensive. But it's nice to have flash, and also the -2 is a good source of card advantage, being able to bring in additional cards. That card advantage is super important, which is why I'm going to run as much of the best counter card advantage I can. Lurking Predators. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature, put it onto the battlefield. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Harmonize. It's not the best card draw spell, but it does have Seton Centaur Druid text and quotes. So yeah, I'm putting it right in because it's solid in the mono green deck and it's on flavor. That's important. Oran Frostfang is also very good because whenever you deal combat damage to a player, your creatures, they draw a card, and attacking creatures have Death Touch, which is super helpful. But the most important types are when your creatures enter the battlefield, you get to draw cards, because those just set up your entire game plan to go nuts. And we've got a total of 5 different things. Guiltleaf Archdruid, whenever you play a druid spell, draw a card. Beast Whisperer, whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Guardian Project, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as a creature you control or creature card in your graveyard, draw a card. That will apply almost all of the time, except for if you've got a Lawnmower Elf token and you play Lawnmower Elves. Still worth it. Soul of the Harvest, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. You don't even have to cast the card that time, just has to enter the battlefield. And it's also a trampling 6/6, that's helpful. Primordial Sage, a spirit. Oh hey, we got another spirit. So it's not the only spirit in play, but that's fine. Whenever you play a creature spell, draw a card. Triggers on all sorts of stuff. All of that card advantage is massively premium, but I'm not done. Regal Force. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each green creature you control. I can imagine casting this and drawing like 10 cards easy, not a problem. But that's all the card advantage and druids and stuff. But there's still a little bit more. You can't just do all card advantage and druids. You gotta be able to interact with the board. So another thing that I'm hopeful to try out, this was just printed in the Ikoria Commander, Obscuring Haze. It's a fog effect. Prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures your opponents control, which is a nice one-sided fog effect. When you're pumping everything up, having this could be a good way to destroy a bunch of stuff. However, it has the best text. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost, which means that you can cast it for free anytime you got Seton out in play, which is going to be fantastic. It would also work if you're gaining control of somebody else's commander, which I don't know if that's ever going to really happen, because there's no specific way to gain control of them in this deck, but who knows, maybe you'll get lucky and someone's playing Zancha, and they'll just give you your dude because they know you'll pump Zancha with it. I mention that because I love doing that, and I love Zancha. But outside of that, you gotta find other ways to protect your stuff. These things are super important, and if you don't have these, it's gonna be really hard to win the game, because you need Seton to get your advantage, you need these to close out the game, so having ways to protect that or recur it is good. Road to Return. Return a permanent card from your graveyard to the hand, or put your commander from your command zone into your hand with the option of Entwine. So you can do both options if you pay a total of 2 green and 2 mana. That sounds really good to me. I haven't cast this spell ever, because I just haven't gotten a chance to play Magic since, I don't know, coronavirus? That's a thing. Another one that I just got is a couple of ways to protect yourself. The biggest way you're going to end up dying is not from like targeted removal. You're probably going to get board wiped. It's Commander. People are running board wipes. So the Soul of the New Phyrexia can give all of your permanents indestructible until the end of turn. And it can even do that from the graveyard if for some reason they killed Soul of New Phyrexia. And on top of that, you can also do the colorless counterspell, because most board wipes are going to be sorceries, and this has one of the abilities to counter target sorcery spell. If for some reason you have to use the exile target creature with power toughness 1 or less, that's a pretty good removal spell. Exiling can be helpful, and at the very least, you can always just pay 2, put an Eldrazi token into play, and then it ramps you by 1. All in all, I think this is a really solid card, and it's a total welcome include. It does require you to run colorless mana, which I do. I have a fair amount of non-green mana sources, which is why my mana base will look really, really weird when we get to it. But I've also got a bit of a removal package. It's very light, though. It's only 7 cards. Seton is a very powerful removal because it takes out 3 non-creature permanents, and each one just gets destroyed, and they get a 3/3 green elephant in play, basically a Beast Within, which I'm also running. Beast Within. Acidic Slime can hit artifact, enchantment, or land. Bane of Progress will destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Rain of Thorns can destroy up to 3 different things: an artifact, an enchantment, and a land. It can destroy 1 or more, which is worth it. I once cast this spell, destroyed 3 things, and someone scooped because I cast that spell in a one-on-one match. That's how powerful getting a 3-for-1 can be. And then, of course, you can also do a very, very fun combo with Soul of Phyrexia, making everything indestructible, and then blowing everything up with Neverill's Disc. So, in theory, what you can do, the most absurd type of situation is you can have Neverill's Disc, Soul of Phyrexia, and Guiltleaf Archdruid with a bunch of druids. You can destroy everyone's artifacts and enchantments using Bane of Progress. You can then take and destroy all artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or with Neverill's Disc, and then take control of all of people's lands, meaning they don't have any lands to cast their spells, they don't have any mana rocks to cast their spells, they don't have any creatures. The only thing they could be left with is cards in hand, their library, and any planeswalkers, which you're gonna run over real soon. And I like Steel Hellkite as a one-sided board wipe. You hit somebody with it, blow up some stuff, get to kill some creatures like that. It's not the best removal, but because I'm so light on removal, I need the removal to be just extra splashy, not efficient, because I've got the mana to spare. It needs to be powerful. And running an 8 mana spell and a 6 mana spell that requires more mana to blow things up, totally worth it. That's most of the deck. The rest is all just the mana. It's really light on lands because you're planning on ramping so much that hitting lands off the top of the deck will just cause it to just putter out, and just you'll fizzle and you'll run out of stuff to do. You have to run a bunch of forests. It's a mono green deck, so you got to run those. But I can't run nothing but basic lands. I personally need to run more things than that. So I've got some non-basic lands that tap for green that do other stuff. Oran Reef Vastwood will add counters onto creatures when they enter the battlefield. Mossfort Bridge, you can play some stuff for free because it's got the hideaway ability. And I've got a bunch of man lands in here. Treetop Village, Colony Garden creates a token. Tranquil Thicket for cycling. You can get some scrying. You can make things bigger. And then you can search out for more basic lands, because each one of these, Blighted Woodland and Myriad Landscape, will search for 2 basic lands, which can even ramp you a little bit, even more, because that's always fun. Making things, what is it? You can, it's just, you're gonna have a lot of fun with the colorless lands as well. You can kill creatures with Quicksand, make more man lands with Dread Sanctuary. Rogue's Passage will make Chameleon Colossus unblockable. Destroying other people's lands with Ghost Quarter and Tectonic Edge can be great. Like I said, I don't mind not making friends. Sometimes I just kind of want to win with Seton. Seton's got to know how powerful he is. Like turning other people's lands into creatures and then blowing them all up during a board wipe. That sounds fun. Arch of Araska is a land that actually has card advantage on it. When you get the City's Blessing, which you'll have, you go wide really quickly, so that won't be a problem. You can spend 5, draw a card, so that's always nice. Haunted Pengraph is a way to get creatures back. Crystal Vein lets you sacrifice it to add 2 colorless mana, can help to get Terestodon or some of the bigger splashier guys out a little bit faster. Stalking Stone's another manland, and then Cryptic Caves, sacrifice it to draw a card. Anything to get that card advantage, I'm willing to do it, because card advantage is key in a mono green deck where you just can't draw cards. So that's how Seton works with Druid Ball. You play out Seton, get him out, play a whole bunch of really cheap 1 mana druids, play a whole bunch, go through your whole deck, get out Gilt Leaf Druids and Chameleon Colossus and Kamal, tap for thousands of mana, and then attack in for like 1,000,000 damage. I've actually calculated 1,000,000. Something silly like, what was it I did one time where you tap a whole bunch of mana using Wireword Channeler, Priest of Titania, and Elvish Archdruid to be able to pump everybody's power and toughness using either Kamal or one of the massive pump effects, and then using Marwyn and Viridian Joiner, now that their power is so ridiculously huge, to tap them for even more mana to be able to like pump Chameleon Colossus a whole bunch, doubling his power over and over and over again, and then finishing it all off with Overwhelming Stampede, using Chameleon Colossus as the base for what everyone else is going to get. I've had him be 1,000 easily, no problem. Have a bunch of 20 people be 1,000. You got way too much damage, but yes, that's magical Christmas land. Someone's going to blow up your stuff, unless you got Solar Phyrexia out, or you just counter their board wipe, because that's what you can do in this crazy mixed up deck. This is what I like about Seton. It's why I put it in my special deck box with my special card sleeves, which I might have to retire because they've seen so much play that they're starting to fray. Makes me sad. I'm gonna have to retire like the cutest little card sleeves. Look at that, so shiny. But that's the stuff I like to nerd out about. This has been a deck tech about Seton, not Seton. Fight me. That's Seton Krosan Protector. I've been Derek. This is me nerding out and ranting about stuff. I hope you enjoyed it.